let's talk about parts we can use for long-term reliability that eliminate some of the annoying failure points. I just want to also say, first off, disclaimer, Sprinco did not send me any of this. I've never gotten paid by any of these people. I've never gotten paid for any of the other parts that I have. Just buying it with my own money. This is all just because it's stuff that I've used, that I like, that I've done research on, that I've heard great things about. All of these things have some kind of personal tie. It's not just stuff from people who pay me to do it. It's exactly why I created this channel. It's just because I don't want people to be like that, where you're just getting the same 6 brands regurgitated every other video. I didn't want that. However, Sprinco is a super popular brand right now. A lot of the higher end companies, I'll say, are using them, like Sons of Liberty Gunworks primarily. They're one of the biggest ones in the game right now, and well, they are using these. Sprinco Green Springs, also using these, and most likely those as well. But I have been using these for a while. When I first started doing builds with AR-15s, I was using carbine length springs. I was primarily I used the blue spring, I used the white spring, the white hot spring, and then I've had now 2 of these green springs, and I have so far never had any problems whatsoever with the buffer springs. The original springs that come in ARs, they're a little twangy. It kind of seems like it hits hard, but that's just because it's carbine tension, and generally they also have just carbine buffers, which adds to it. But switching to Sprincos is just the easy choice. I mean, the original springs that come either in a rifle length setup or the carbine length setups, those springs are only rated for a couple of thousand rounds from typical companies. And these, if you go on Sprinco's website, they have a whole description as to why it is that their springs are the way they are. And just touching on some of it, like the certification rating ensures a consistency in the parent material of 95%, which translates to repeatable consistency in performance and function. Certified valve quality chrome silicone wire. When I read that for the first time, when I was setting up one of my first builds and figuring out what was the little stuff that I could do to make my rifle as solid as it could be, as long lasting as it could be, if a shit hit the fan scenario comes up, what could my rifle have in it that would eliminate a lot of the failure points or service points, something that would give me the edge to either be able to perform better or to perform longer than just what you would typically get, just because that's how I am. And well, when I read this and got looking into this, you know, they're talking about these valve springs that they commonly make up 15 million compressions, and how their springs, like here's down here, in addition, all of our chrome silicone buffer springs are heat treated, stress relieved, dual stage shot peened, and separate post winding treatments. We also treat each spring with a proprietary deep penetrating remicronized (parentheses to 0.3 micron particle size) inhibited I'm not even going to try and say that substance formulation to eliminate 90% of all mechanical wear. The combination of materials and process results in a loss of no more than 5% in spring efficiency. Minimum anticipated duty cycles of our buffer springs designs are in excess of 1.5 million cycles. I don't know anyone shooting that much. If you know someone that's got a lower with that much on it, that's insane. If they had that spring that long, more insane that they had the money to shoot that much. But but even still, with their extractor springs, it's the same way. They kind of go above and beyond. Same high grade wire stock, but like they can cryogenic process these, makes it just better, increases the strength and wear life of parent material through a change in microstructure, resulting in less retained austenite and more uniformity in grain structure. And then down here was something that also caught my eye when I was first looking at these. While we don't really know how long our extractor springs will last, round counts in excess of 200,000 rounds and ongoing are documented on a single extractor spring. So when I saw that stuff, I think at the time when I read that it said 100,000. But when I saw that stuff, I knew immediately that this was stuff I had to get my hands on, had to test out, and I had just a basic mil-spec rifle at the time. My first rifle I used Sprinco parts on. The extractor spring was pretty weak. Don't really know what the quality of the ejector spring was. Carbine buffer spring, carbine buffer. First things I did to that whole system was a Sprinco blue spring, because I think I had a pretty large gas port on there. I was getting some pretty gassy symptoms with pretty much all the ammo I was using. So I went with a Sprinco blue spring. I went with an H2 buffer, and then I changed out the extractor spring with their extractor, and then I just used one of their O-rings, since they say not to use both. If you use an O-ring, don't use the insert, or vice versa. So I went with just the spring and the O-ring, which also some pockets on some extractors may not accept that. You might have to actually use a little bit of a diamond burr and create that pocket where you can get the larger end of the spring to seat down into the pocket. I didn't have that problem, which was nice. But then the ejector springs as well. I actually replaced pretty much every bulk carry group I get with that, unless it already has it, like the Sons Liberty ones I have now. I have 2 of those that have it, but before those, I actually had Daniel Defense ones I replaced those on, and I mean, I had pretty consistent ejections already, but even better. And then the gas rings, and you're talking these parts, by the way, you're talking like $20, like $8, $6, and like $4. And these are some really high quality parts that you can put to really help reliability in cycling, longevity, and then your extractions, getting positive extractions, longevity there as well. And then gas rings, of course, for efficiency inside your bulk carry group. I mean, these are, in my opinion, super cheap, no-brainer upgrades that'll instantly be able to take that rifle from a pretty cheap mil-spec, maybe just off the shelf from a pawn shop kind of deal, into something that, you know, you can start to take into something a little bit better. You know, maybe you start with all the springs and the gas rings and stuff like that, then maybe put a better gas block on there, or something like that. You know, this is just a pretty easy, cheap, simple first step, in my opinion, to a better, more reliable rifle. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of give them a bit of a spotlight. Speaking on the green spring specifically, if anyone is looking for specific setups, so here is mine, right? So Sons Liberty Gunworks ones, they already come with these springs, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. If you want a nice bulk carry group, I recommend them. Honorable mention as a second, I would say, is BCM. They are also fantastic. But so the buffer system that I am really liking right now is the Sprinco green spring with the BCM T1 or T2, or the Veltor A5 equivalents. This has just been absolutely phenomenal. Shoots super soft. I mean, everything I throw into any of my guns, ejection patterns are extremely predictable for each one. Stand there and you can just pile them up. It's been pretty fantastic. And then, like I said, I've never had any failures. I'm thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds in on these things, and yeah, no service yet, so we'll see if we ever get there someday. But all right, thank you guys for watching.